Today, I am going to start talking to you guys about 4 different true crime events that have occurred and somehow, through 6 degrees of separation for whatever reason, crossed paths with my life. Um, the first one that I want to talk about today, the victim's name was Diana Pulse. And this happened in 2002, and these are some of the Tennessean clips from that murder. So Diana was good friends with one of my childhood friends, and I moved to Tennessee from Oregon, where I'm from, in 1995, and I was going into the 5th grade. And the first school that I attended was a school called Riverside Elementary School, and I hated it. Well, actually, that's not true. The first school I attended was in Nashville for just a few weeks at Cameron Middle School, because they started 5th graders in the middle school and they went from 5th to 8th grade, and that was inner city Nashville school. And my mom did not want to live in urban Nashville, and I did not want to go to school there. Completely different story, but it was a lot like Dangerous Minds kind of district, and I was a very short, little, tiny 11-year-old. So it was a scary, scary place to be. So we ended up moving to Columbia, Tennessee, and the first school that I went to there was Riverside Elementary School. And in Riverside, I started 5th grade there, and I ended up meeting one of my friends who ended up becoming my best friend later, and that was Amanda. Now, Amanda's other really close friend was Diana Pulse. And Diana Pulse was an African American girl, and she lived on the eastern side of Columbia, Tennessee, which was considered to be a rougher place to live. And some of us were, the kids that were kind of from some of the rougher neighborhoods. And Diana was very outspoken, and she was a person that if you were on her good side and you were a friend, it was good. But if you were not, then she could be what you would consider a confrontational or combative personality type. And so she was very extroverted, and she was very loud, and she was very vocal and opinionated. And if she came around, everyone noticed her because of how she was. And but yet she was still funny, and she had a lot of friends still. And when she undertook people under her wing, she was a very protective friend, and she was that way to one of my best friends. And we never had a problem, she and I, but I wouldn't have said that she was like a close friend of mine. She was more of an associate, and we were in the same friend group. But I was really, really close with Amanda, who was also really, really close with Diana. When we were all 18 years old, the summer that we were all 18 years old, I had a baby at this point, and my daughter was just a few months old, and I was working, my husband was working at that time working at a factory where he worked 12-hour shifts, and it would switch. So it would swing around where it was 4 days where he'd work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and then it would be 4 days where he would work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And it so happened that one morning on one of those shifts, it was supposed to be his last day working. He was really late getting back home, and he didn't get home until like 9:30 that morning. And when I asked what had happened, what had taken him so long, because it usually was only like a 20-minute commute from where he worked to our house, and it was so early in the morning that, it usually it would fall whenever most of the buses for the school system on school days were already out of the way. But it was summertime then, because this happened in July, I believe. And so the story that I'm about to read is from a staff writer with the Daily Herald in Columbia, Tennessee, I believe. And her name was Sue McClure. This was written August 22nd, 2002. and it is titled I Just Got Away with Columbia, Tennessee. Tony Garrett Mitchell studied to be a serial killer, a role he thought would make him famous by reading books on the subject and watching the movie American Psycho, officials said. Yesterday, during a lengthy preliminary hearing, the question was asked of him, why did he kill these girls? Columbia Police Detective Roy Sellers said there's not that many black serial killers and I wanted to be famous. Family members of slaying victim Diana Pulse, age 18, shook their heads in horror at the statement. Mitchell of Columbia alternately smirked and sat stone-faced as graphic details of his statements to police about the murder of Diana Pulse on July 4th and Pam Tate Gordon, 39, on July 14th, and also the wounding of Joyce Clark, 42, on August the 4th were read and played on cassette tape. This is a while ago now. You can see it on cassette tape. After more than 3 hours of testimony, Maury County General Sessions Court Judge Jimmy Matthews sent the case to Maury County Grand Jury. Maury County Public Defender Claudia Jack, who is representing Mitchell, said her client has pleaded not guilty and she would have nothing more to add at this point in prosecution. Mr. Mitchell said he felt great when he shot Diana, like a release. FBI Special Agent Stephen Dickey, who created a criminal profile of the killer, testified during yesterday's hearing. He said he felt a rush, explaining, I just got away with murder. After that killing, Dickey testified, Mitchell went to the Maury County Library and read Anatomy of a Serial Killer and Body Count, the story of a serial killer who strangled his victims. He said he had a bad outlook on women, even a hatred for women because they had lied and cheated and stolen from him all his life. Dickey added he also tortured animals, the agent testified. At age 15, he observed a bird with a broken wing in his yard. Dickey said he got a lawnmower and then proceeded to unalive the bird. At age 21, he also killed 2 cats, strangling one and killing the other by use of blunt force with a hammer. He's just out there. And anyway, it goes on to explain all the things about the history of his profile, what led him to get to this point. But here's what happened with Diana. He took Diana Pulse to his motel room at Hamilton Inn where they smoked marijuana. Then on the way back to Columbia, he told her to roll the back window down. And when she turned around, he shot her in the back of the head. Mitchell was almost caught that night when a sheriff deputy shined a spotlight on him outside the Hamilton Inn. There were fireworks stands near there, and he thought the sheriff's deputy thought he was going to break into the fireworks stand. Instead, Mitchell went across the street to the Polk Arms Apartments and washed the blood off of his clothing in the laundry room. And they found Diana the next morning in Mount Pleasant, Tennessee, in a field not far from where my ex-husband worked, near the municipal airport. She was completely disrobed. She was missing several digits on her finger, and she was left spread-eagled. And when I said disrobed, I forgot one little thing. She did have her underwear on, which had been pulled down to her knees and left on her knees with her legs completely sprawled apart in the field. And so when my ex-husband got off work, there was the coroner and the entire crime scene investigation, the whole CSI and forensics unit was there, and they had the only road out completely blocked off because they had found this woman's body. Now, at the time that he came back and he told me that there had been a murder and a body had been found, I did not know that it had been a murder of someone that I actually knew. And that's where this came into play, because I had, at that point, we had already all graduated. Like I said, I met her when I was 11 years old, and we were all 18. This was the 4th of July, the summer that we all turned 18, and it devastated my best friend, and it really sent a shock through the community, because 2 women were killed by Tony Mitchell, and he attempted to kill a third, but she was able to get away, and if it wasn't for her getting away, he probably would have gotten away with murdering a lot more people. And it's just one of those cases that odd. I just could never explain to you why, but you never expect that something like that will happen in your community until it does. And this is the first of 4 stories that I had to tell you guys about this. So yeah, look that up. And again, rest in peace, Diana. All of us still remember you, and you'll never be forgotten. Peace out.